Started. So hello and welcome to the LebNet webinar on Lebanese companies surviving and thriving. So let me start by saying Lebanon right now is going through unprecedented economic and financial hardships right now. But we always remain hopeful for the future because of the talents and successes the Lebanese have shown across the world. My name is Fady Daou, and I'm honored to be your moderator today. I'm the president of June Technologies, a company focused on management, technical, and educational services with current projects in 5G, digital transformation, and smart connected device strategies. I've been in the industry for over 35 years, including executive assignments with IBM, Qualcomm, and Siemens. Today's webinar is part of an ongoing series of webinars that LebNet has been running on several interesting topics, ranging from 5G to the impact of COVID-19. So if you've missed any of these LebNet webinars, I strongly encourage you to watch them. They're all available on YouTube, as will this webinar 24 hours from now. So a few housekeeping items. Everyone other than the panelists have been muted. At any time, if you have a question, please send them via the Q&A box that's on the bottom of the screen, and we'll select a few of them to address in the last 20 minutes of the webinar. And if for any reason you have logistical issues, please send a chat to Janine, our LebNet Executive Director, who is on this webinar. So I'd like to introduce the impressive panel members we have today. Fady Daou, CEO and founder of Multilane, Nasreen Turki, CEO and founder of IoTree, and Sharbel Rizet, CEO and founder of Oculi. All right, so let's get started, and I'd like to have each of you maybe give a short introduction on yourselves and your company. And Nasreen, we're going to start with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ram. Thank you, LebNet, for this great opportunity. I'm very happy to be here. So I'm Nasreen, the founder and CEO of Internet of Trees, IoTree. I'm also a computer communication engineer and a professor at the university at the Faculty of Engineering at NDU. I have developed a strong technical background and knowledge in the telecommunication, networking, and computing fields and led several projects. I am also a serial and tech entrepreneur. I have established 2 SMEs and lately perceiving the pain in the agriculture sector. I decided to step in and invented a new device using cutting-edge wireless technology, novel high-end machine learning algorithms to predict the trend and revive the agriculture sector and make farmers' life easier. So I founded IoTree and won several awards, local and international, and we are now working to launch a new digital solution in the farming industry.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Nasreen. Sharbel.
Okay, I was hoping you go to Fady next, but I'll, again, I'm Sharbel Rizek. I'm from Jazin, from South Lebanon. If you haven't been to Jazin, it's the prettiest town in Lebanon, no matter what anybody else says. I'm a professor at Johns Hopkins and had been leading research in the area of vision technology. In fact, we may have smarter eyes for your next product, Nasreen. So, and the problem really we've been trying to solve for many years, and now within Oculi we're trying to commercialize, is the fact that you and I are now watching this video conference. Your eyes are seeing and processing just about everything that's happening. It's doing it in real time, and it's costing only a few milliwatts. If you were to put a robot here to watch the same webinar, that robot will be burning a lot more power in order to basically understand and follow everything that's happening. So I'm waving my hand right now, the robot will be burning watts to track my hand. So we have combined that into a single chip vision sensor that operates like the human eye. It's smart enough to run very fast as well as output only the relevant information to the world around it. And so that's what we're about.
All right, well, great. Thank you, Sharbel. Okay, so one ground rule, let's not all try to argue about who lives in the best part of Lebanon. We'll never get through this webinar. So Fady, go ahead. Fady, we got you on mute.
We'll have lights in few seconds with switching between generators. The story of our life in Lebanon. No energy or unreliable energy. There we go.
There we go. Light. Let there be light.
Let there be light. So my name is Fady Daou. I repatriated to Lebanon 15 years ago with a pure passion to help create a high-tech industry in Lebanon. I started a few companies in the US and came back primarily just to say, yes, we can compete from Lebanon. We can build products, quality products. We can be competitive on the global market, and we can create an industry, and our young people can stay in Lebanon instead of leaving. Today, I'm running Multilane. It's a global leader in high-tech and high-speed I/O test and measurement products. And we are developing a campus in Homeland, also one of the prettiest towns in Lebanon, to primarily offer products to the high-speed I/O, to the data center ecosystem, the data center infrastructure.
Okay, great, Fady. Thank you. So let's explore a few areas here. And Nisreen, I'm going to start with you because I think your company had a very interesting background in terms of how it was born out of some activities in the mountains of Lebanon and a specific need. And by the way, if you want to actually mention the exact area where this started, feel free to do that as well.
Because it's Fady Daou, right?
Well, I didn't, want to bias it at all. Go ahead, Nisreen.
Okay. Okay, cool. So it's true. While I was on a trip to Fady Daou, you know why Fady Daou, I met apple farmers trying desperately to sell a crate of apples for a very cheap price. And I have also heard about the struggles that farmers were facing due to the destructive pest called Ceratitis capitata, or Mediterranean fruit fly. I found that this pest can wipe out an entire year worth of crops from laying their eggs in fruits and vegetable plants. And farmers were spraying too much pesticides to fight the infestation. And but spraying pesticides too much of chemicals will damage crops and also kills natural good enemies, insects, natural insects. So I wanted really badly to help and make a revolution in this sector. So I attended workshops, seminars, and met with farmers, agricultural experts, and I even traveled to Wageningen University in the Netherlands to meet with the top-notch agricultural experts in the world. And I decided to engineer a tech-oriented solution that will revive the sector and will create a social and environmental impact. So what we are doing right now at IO3, we were able to reduce crop damages, increase the production, which increased the revenue, and encourage the farmer to stay in rural areas and not to quit farming. We even secured jobs for youth and women in rural areas and improved the quality of the harvest by reducing the use of pesticides. And of course, we also preserved biodiversity, saved butterflies, bees, etc. In a nutshell, at my company, we are using the latest trends in technology, IoT, machine learning, cloud computing, and we even partnered with Touch, the mobile leading operator in Lebanon, to be the pioneer working on the NB-IoT technology in order to serve farmers in rural areas. That's all about IO3.
No, thank you. Thank you, Nisreen. And your solution, you've also been doing some work outside of Lebanon as well, right? In Europe and excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Fady, you mentioned in your introduction the technology park in Lebanon. Talk a little bit more about that and your, the vision and mission.
Absolutely. The technology park is primarily intended to provide a complete ecosystem for developing hardware-based product, especially for the data centers. So it's a integrated campus that has office space, R&D labs, light production facility, clean rooms, operation area, convention and conference area, as well as a large training facility. And within that, the campus is called HTP or Homeland Technology Park. And on campus, there is also HTP Academy, as well as space for other companies. The HTP Academy is a place where we offer free applied training and coaching to university graduates, to youngsters, to high school kids on ongoing basis. That's within the campus.
Very good. Very good, Fady.
Campus has a space of 22,000 square meters of built-up area. We are currently occupying only about 3,000 square meters, and we will move into the second building by end of this year as well. So we'll have significant growth potential.
Wow, that's exciting. Yeah, very exciting. Shadabel, your company is a bit different in that you're based outside of Lebanon and outside of Jazeen, I might point out, but you've been working to establish a stronger presence in Lebanon. Talk about that a little bit.
So I think, I have the idea that Fady has, although he's obviously been very successful at it, and I'm looking forward to learning from his experience, that, Lebanon really, obviously, we enjoy, the nature in Lebanon, the weather, right? But the most important and richest aspect of Lebanon are really the people there. So we have definitely no shortage of talent. And so it was a no-brainer for us to try to establish, a presence there and try to recruit some talent to be part of the company. And then Fady, just as he mentioned earlier, he started the academy because it is really one thing that was surprising to me. We always assume the education in Lebanon is very good, which it is good, but a lot of the universities there are not necessarily teaching as far, a new technology as much as they need to. So you end up, still graduating engineers that are strong in the foundation, which I consider to be extremely important. But they don't have as much exposure to newer and more advanced technology. Skill sets that we need, people like Fady needs and like our company needs. So the fact that he did that academy is actually a very good idea. And so I would love to see more of that happening in Lebanon. So when really a deep tech, that's what we are, right? We are a deep tech company. When we show up in Lebanon, we basically have at least more the ability to hire more people quickly. We have struggled really with hiring so far, and so I wish we can solve that problem quickly enough. But so that's what I would recommend for people who are watching and who want to see more, growth, high-tech jobs in Lebanon, to start thinking about how do we bring resources between various universities to create a better training and a better skill set. Under one condition, we give you free education, but you have to serve and work out of Lebanon for a period of time. We don't want to train people to turn around and leave the next day, right?
Sure. Well, that's a kind of a great segue to the question I wanted to ask Nasreen, and Shadbel, you may also have a follow-up on this as well. So Nasreen, you mentioned you're an instructor in the engineering department at NDU. So can you talk a little bit about that role and the influence and impact it's had on your company, IO3, for example?
Yeah, before talking about IO3, we need to mention that our educational system in Lebanon is inherently strong. So like we all speak a minimum of 3 languages, even 4 languages. And as Sharbel mentioned, we are also very well known to have a great fundamental background in sciences like math, physics, chemistry, compared to most educational systems in the world. However, like Sharbel mentioned, it's true that in many universities we are still focusing on the theoretical old school rather than including the new technology like cloud computing, machine learning, IoT. So I totally agree with Sharbil and Fady. But we also need to mention that Lebanese are persistent, and you know how much you are persistent and how much we are hard workers. We are very special wherever we go. So in my case, I usually compel students to use a higher level of thinking to solve complex problems and to innovate. I strongly believe that if we want to increase the motivation of students to become entrepreneurs, and if we want more innovative employees, we need to focus more on innovation in education. And the ability to be innovative should be a fundamental element in all education from primary school to PhDs. And what's good to mention is that lately, in the past few years, most of the universities in Lebanon added the courses related to entrepreneurship and innovation, and they are even adding a minor in entrepreneurship to their program, which sounds very positive and like they are working towards helping the students to be more innovative. So in case, for example, it happens to be a trainee with Sharbil, it will be a win-win situation for the company and for the trainee. So in my case, for example, many students in the past 2 years trained at IO3, and it was kind of a win-win situation for us and for them. I think this kind of contribution between high-tech companies and universities is a must.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Nasreen. And Shadaba, you probably have a viewpoint as well, right, from your experience at Johns Hopkins?
Yeah, in fact, I actually developed a course at Johns Hopkins first because the management and the leadership there recognize that they need more hands-on, courses. Every graduating class they interview and they say, if you were to rewind your education, what's the one thing you would like to see done differently? And consistently, that was ranking high. We would like to have more hands-on courses because Johns Hopkins as a heritage is really also a research-heavy institution. And so I developed a course, for selfish motivations, because around that time that they asked me to do something like that, I was thinking of starting a company. And I had hired many engineers in my previous life where I felt like, they really need a lot of basic training. And so I felt that, by teaching a course at the university that better prepares students, I can hire them as soon as they graduate. And that actually proved to be an effective model. And this is the one that I proposed when I was in Lebanon over a year ago, and I met with all the engineering schools in Lebanon, or at least most of them. And I proposed that they pull resources together and create, an academy, an institution of some kind that allows students from various schools to take, an advanced technology course there and get credit in their own respective school. And I think that's really a model where startups can participate in the academy to provide additional training and projects, and so it's a win-win situation if we can get that kind of an infrastructure in place.
Very cool, very cool. So I noticed we have a question already, and it kind of weaves into a question I was going to ask, which is directed towards you, Fady. You're competing globally in a very competitive industry. So how do you prove to customers you can do this from Lebanon and maintain relationships with customers, et cetera, most of whom are outside of Lebanon?
Right, that's a great question. Great question. We have proven over the past 10 years that we're constantly first to market in our market, most innovative solution. So that was primarily the easiest way to get in, because you're in the first customer regardless where the solution comes from. So of course, after offering a product or a service for a number of years,
We have you frozen and cutting out a little bit, Fady.
Maybe you ought to switch on your hotspot, Fady, instead of your DSL or whatever internet. Maybe that would be better.
I think I'm gonna actually, while Fady hopefully comes back, I was gonna switch over maybe Nasreen to you. Maybe you can just talk a little bit about some of the projects you've done outside of Lebanon. I'm thinking specifically in Europe with IoT.
Yeah, sure. So basically, in 2018, we wanted to validate our idea and our prototype elsewhere with the European farmer. European mindset is different than the Lebanese mindset. So we visited Netherlands 3 to 4 times, and we installed our machine in a very big farm in the Netherlands, and we tested it there. We were very happy with the result, and the experts were very happy as well. So it was a very nice experience, and we are almost to close a deal, but then COVID-19 hit, and we had to bring back our prototype to Lebanon. So basically, we lost 2 deals because of COVID-19, one in Poland and one in the Netherlands. So hope by 2022 we will be back on track, and we will be back. Okay, so he is back. Fady is back.
Apologize.
No problem. No problem.
Very nice. I like that.
We need you to rename yourself again as well, Fady, because you're showing up as Janine.
Okay, there you go.
But thank you for coming back. Nasreen talked a little bit about some of the work she's done outside of the of Lebanon. But again, maybe you can talk a little bit more about your work, because I think most of your customers are outside of Lebanon, and quite a few probably in the US specifically, right?
Right. So we have, let me, a quick view of Multilane. We have an office in the Valley, in Silicon Valley. We have offices in Taiwan, and we have a team in China, and we just opened an office in Dubai, and we have also a team in Europe. We have R&D labs in Lebanon, and we have compliance interop test labs in the Bay Area. 50% of our business is in the US. We employ 180 people in Lebanon, and we've been growing. We've been on a very healthy growth track record. On average, our compounded annual growth rate for the past 8 years is 25%. So this is yearly growth. We are beating this number this year already. We're about to overtake 2020 or plus the 25% growth over 2020. So we're well over the number in 2020. So our customers are all the hyperscalers that we work with, all their OEM system vendors, the Cisco, Arista, Juniper, Ciena, and the likes, as well as significant growth that we see in the semiconductor test industry. Multilane has been for the past 2 years and still is the first and only company to market to offer high-speed I/O testing at speed at 112 gigabit per second. We are the first company to offer 800 gig test solution for both system vendors and OEMs, to the ODMs, as well as the module interconnect vendor. So we are growing, we're succeeding, and Multilane's brand has been very well known, and they all know, yeah, it's a company out of Lebanon. It's a Lebanese company. So we've done well with brand awareness, and we are succeeding. And today we are shipping around 5,000 items every single week that are made in Lebanon, and each item has software, firmware, very advanced SI, and very unique product performance.
Well, it's very impressive. And when you were describing how global you are, offices in China, Taiwan, the U.S., I was just thinking how you're carrying on the Phoenician legacy of businesses, and how the Phoenicians used to do it with ships across the Mediterranean, and you've taken it even further now globally across the world.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to grow in our market, but what's most important, we are receiving today, and we continue to receive dozens and dozens of CVs every single day. People who have not been able to get a visa to leave the country, they are asking us, I will work for very little money just for gas the first few months. So there is an absolute need. I want to again make a call. There's an absolute need for help creating jobs in Lebanon. And unfortunately, we're suffering major issues today. A lot of the folks who can leave, who really have faced certain challenges in living and continue to operate in Lebanon, are leaving. But effectively, we do maintain the hope. We are still encouraging people. We're still providing hope that, yes, we're going to build it, and we are succeeding, and we continue to invest, and we continue to grow, and we continue to hire, and we're very hopeful and committed to stay the course.
That's great. Sharbel, you talked a little bit earlier about this area of computer vision, which it's a very exciting field today. How do you explain computer vision, particularly to investors who I know you try to spend a lot of time with early in startup days, right?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, the best analogy really that I have is to use the human vision as the architecture that we should be aiming for. And, computer vision has a camera and a computer, okay? The human vision has the eye and the brain. And typically, what we have done with computer vision, or now it's called machine vision, is that we basically turn on the camera, we output videos, streaming videos, and then we let the computer just process that data and try to get the information out of it. It's very inefficient as we're doing it now, and it's very limiting as well. And what we have basically, the architecture that we developed was to push some of that smarts that exists today outside, pushing it right on the same chip that's doing the sensing, which is basically what the human eye does. So now we have a single chip that is both the sensor and the processor that is making computer / machine vision a lot more efficient. Because for once, you can run now your sensor very fast and still not require a supercomputer behind it. If any of the audience right now who are involved in industrial applications where you got things moving fast, or things are happening fast, and you have already a computer vision solution, it's very expensive and very complex. And the reason for that is that camera is custom built. It's a high-speed camera, and it dumps a lot of data that you have to manage and process in real time. And it's a very inefficient process. So what we have done now is we give you now a single chip that's a high-speed camera, but it's also a smart camera that only outputs the relevant information at the rate that you want it, and you can still manage it without needing a lot of resources. So that's kind of the key advantage that we're bringing to bear here, that tomorrow I can guarantee you Nisreen's classes and students would love to have our sensor to put on a robot or even on a future tree, right? And that's the power of our technology. Now we have taken a complex problem and then reduced it down significantly.
So I just saw a follow-up here question. Can computer vision chip be used in autonomous vehicles or LiDAR?
Exactly. That's basically what it was developed for autonomous applications. That's really the one area that I've been living in for 30 years. Mm-hmm. And if you look at autonomous vehicles today, and despite what everybody is telling you, they're not going to be available anytime soon. And I can tell you why. because right now what they have today is still not robust and reliable, and it's still too expensive. And unless they start deploying technology like the one that we have developed, they're not going to get there, you know.
Yeah, great follow-up. There's another question that came in, and it relates to the discussion we're having on education. And they said, can you discuss more hands-on education, technical experience, versus the formal college experience? Does, not everyone needs a 4-year college degree to excel. So do you guys have views or comments on that?
I do, but I'll go last.
Okay. Who wants to go first? Do I need to pick on someone? Fady, I'll pick on you.
That's actually very, very effective, I would feel. And I think a 2-year foundation of solid engineering is plenty adequate. We can take, for example, the example of Synopsys in Armenia, where they take students after the first 2 years of college and they put them through a special university training of hands-on. And now Synopsys employs over 1,000 people in Armenia. Another example that we are operating here, we have many young students who are attending universities, local universities, but cannot afford to go full-time. So they come and start working with us part-time. And after the second year, they become very effective. And they continue with this path of part-time university, and they're working with us full-time, and they are extremely effective, and they become and evolve and are developing fairly well. And we offer, of course, as part of HTP Academy, a plethora of advanced courses in signal integrity, in mixed signal IC design, in FPGA, embedded development, signals and systems, applied signals and systems, and how to use VNAs, and those are extremely important skills. And typically today we hire university students or graduates, and within 3 months they are so thorough in the work and the quality that they deliver, and that's enabled us to offer world-class products. Yeah,
it's a great point. By the way, you brought up Synopsys, and I should mention, if you don't know, the new COO of Synopsys is Lebanese, Sassine Ghazi, and 2 of his senior vice presidents are also Lebanese, Raja Tebet and Charlie Matar. So I know all 3 of those folks. So again, if we're talking about successful Lebanese, would always like to highlight that as well. Nasreen, do you want to make a few comments before Sharbel claims his last spot?
So I'm into academia. I should be against Fady, but honestly, I am. He is right. I totally agree with Fady. Honestly, our education system needs to be revisited in a way or so. The school program and the university program, and I totally agree with Fady, and I think I will agree with Sharbel as well.
Yeah, and before you go, Sharbel, there's another follow-up in the chat box. It says, is the current education initiative focused on education for employment and talent discovery and development? So if you also want to comment on that as you're thinking about your comments on this whole thing around education.
Okay, so I didn't quite understand what they meant by education and training initiatives. Well, I'm proposing that Lebanon is great with tourism, is great. It used to be great with banking, right, and in agriculture, right. Those are key aspects of our economy. I'm advocating that high tech becomes a front and center, because that's the way of the future. And one way to do that is to start focusing on how do we better train and equip our young people to where when a startup like us show up, right? They just find talent and they go up and running. We're wasting a lot of time really sifting through resumes, interviewing, and hiring has really been a challenge for us. So to go back to the issue of education in general, 4 year versus 2 years versus in between, if I were to put my professor hat on, I'll say the vast majority of people will greatly benefit from having, a typical education program. There is a smaller group that may benefit or may not, and so really there is no one solution for everybody. And so if you ask me today, I was in school for too long. If I rewind my life, I would have ended on my undergraduate degree. But I was having too much fun. We were, and I was enjoying school. But so there's really no one answer that fits all. But this day and age, I would warn anybody against rushing out of school for one simple reason. Basic education is valuable, whether you use it in your immediate job or not. Right now, like my kids, they want to celebrate graduating, getting an undergraduate degree, and I look at them like, that's not a big accomplishment nowadays, because we were spoon feeding, I mean, it's like, you didn't really have to work hard to get an undergraduate degree. So I think we got to be careful about setting the bar too low for this generation. We want people to be intellectual. We want people to be, innovators and creative. But just because you can do one thing good, that doesn't mean you're not going to benefit from learning other things,
Yeah, those some great points here. I think all three of you made, and I just want to remind our listeners, if you have questions, to please put them in the Q&A box, and we'll address them. What role can the diaspora, the people outside of Lebanon, play, do you think, in the Lebanese tech community, either in Lebanon or outside of Lebanon, or both? And maybe I'll start with you, Shadbul, because how you've kind of done a bit of that work with respect to Oculi and going down into Lebanon.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, the Lebanese community, like you said, is well established everywhere, in every industry, in every country. We don't lack success stories. We certainly have one weakness, which is we don't work well together. And that's the one thing that I would recommend everybody who's listening and everybody who will be listening later, think about how you can help. And so to grow high tech in Lebanon, our challenge has been, like I said, finding the right talent, but also, getting the right investments and all of that. So, and the right customers. And so you mentioned the CEO as Synopsys. Synopsys is the primary tool we're using within Oculi. It's the first time I hear about Armenia, and the first time I hear about the CEO, right? And it's the ability for us to network and share that knowledge that allows us to be more successful. Because at the end of the day, if Oculi is successful, Lebanon is going to benefit as long as I'm in charge. And the same thing with Fady. The more Multilane becomes successful, the more Lebanon is benefiting, and the same applies to Nisreen, right? So I would just challenge all of us to start thinking more as a team and a community, and minimize the I factor. I don't know if it's a DNA problem, where all of us think that we are the best and smartest, and it's a disease. I call it a disease. But so I would say, if you think you are so good, not just focus on being successful, focus on helping, your community be successful.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think, as things oscillate in Lebanon, or throughout history, right? There are good times and bad times. I think it's been the success of the diaspora, particularly during the bad times, that sort of continue to keep the fuel and the hope going. Yeah. So that hopefully, as things get better in Lebanon, there's a brain trust and a resources that are available to sort of fuel that. Fady, your thoughts about the diaspora and what they can do?
Well, it's a great question. I cannot emphasize. I lived in the U.S. for 25 years. I started 3 companies in the U.S. and I sold the 3 companies. And at a certain point, there was a void in there was a void where I was feeling there's something else I need to do for my country, for my homeland, for home. And that was a very important nagging point that I felt I need to do something about it. So I packed and moved back. What can the diaspora do? There's lots of opportunities. For one, the most important and basic thing is keep the connections going, especially with the second generation. Your kids are in college, they're graduating, they're moving on. I think trying to find a vehicle to keep them linked to Lebanon, them coming to Lebanon and spending 3 months at a AUB or university, being at an internship program at Multilane or other companies. It's an important thing for them to say, well, there's another community. Now, as what Sherbil mentioned, is very important. The Lebanon needs you today more than any time in the past. We have lots of people leaving the country. We need the likes of Synopsys to come and establish shop here and to be able to hire people here. We need them to be interactively working with the universities. So we keep the talent in Lebanon. Otherwise, most young people who leave, very few of them come back. So it's very important, especially today with technology, we can compete from Lebanon with anywhere else in the world. The world is flat today, so there's nothing that is that exceeds in terms of challenge. So we can be as competitive as anywhere else, and we have the foundation to be very successful. We have the ecosystems, we have the environment. So that level of involvement is very important. And also, of course, I've reached out to many friends from LebNet to say, please make that introduction. And that has been so successful. And I can say every time I've asked for an introduction, folks went, the extra mile. And that's been primarily very valuable to the company. So I thank everyone who's helped. So that's very important. One last very important point, which I think is the most critical and challenging, yet I have not been able to figure how we address it. I hope there is a program for some of the experts from the Lebanese community, from LebNet, around the world who are willing to come and spend 6 months time in Lebanon on a sabbatical, or some of the professors, some of the specialized in certain fields that they come in and offer training courses, primarily to repatriate some of that knowledge or pass on some knowledge to these younger folks that can enable and trigger a tremendous economic activity around the country. So we're hoping to be able to host such an initiative, us, BDD, Veritech, once that takes place.
Yeah, that's a very great point. And, I'm glad you brought up LebNet. Obviously, this is a LebNet webinar. I know one of the big values of LebNet has been to try to bring together the Lebanese network globally, but, specifically within the US and Canada. And the other great point that you mentioned is the youth, because there's a number of initiatives that have just started now within LebNet around youth and what they call early in career mentorship and networking and whatnot. And I know a number of us from the LebNet community have also gone and done what I call guest lectures at the various universities and whatnot. But I think it's a great point that there's probably more that we can do. I love the idea of, sabbatical or going down and being able to help the Lebanese community. Maybe I'll start the Fady Daou technical park. But no, it's great point. I think we're just beginning to scratch the surface with what LebNet can do with respect to the diaspora and helping Lebanon. I want to give Nisreen an opportunity to comment on this as well. Nisreen?
I think I have nothing to add, but we need to mention that in Lebanon, we need all kind of help. So we need technical help, maybe like they mentioned, investors, maybe emotional help. So لبنان خلص يعني.
Yeah, it's a great point, Nisreen. I think as I mentioned right up front, this is a very difficult time in Lebanon, and we always remain hopeful for the future. But a lot of that hope is based on both the success and resources that the Lebanese around the world really can provide. And I think now is the time to be stepping up and hopefully doing that. So let me check in the Q&A to see if there's any other further questions that we haven't really addressed. I don't see anything there, and I don't see anything in the chat box. So what I'm going to do to wrap this up will be to share a final slide. First of all, I'd like to thank Nisreen, Fady, Sharbel, and all our attendees. Hopefully this has been beneficial to all of you. LebNet has a lot of exciting initiatives and activities. By the way, including a podcast series that recently started called Brothers Talking Tech, where myself and one of my brothers give these 5-minute quick podcasts. So, but if you're interested in engaging, and I would encourage you, please reach out to Janine Haii, the LebNet's executive director. I'm sure there's something on this page for everyone in our Lebanese community that they have interest in or want to get involved in. And as always, we appreciate your feedback on this event. And if you have future topics that you would like to see in the webinar, please let us know. So without further ado, I'll wish you all to please stay safe and stay well. And thank you all.
Thank you, friend. And Janine in the background.
And Janine in the background.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you so much, LebNet.